And here's the video review for the Unique Toys W02, the second in their Warlord series. IRONHEAD, aka Headstrong, aka the Rhino from Predaking. And I am doing just a little brief overview of the packaging on this one, just because after some of the issues and lackluster performance of the Warhawk, we heard a lot about how they were they're paying a lot more attention to production quality and upping all of that for the rest of the series. And when you get the package in hand, you see that, because when you had the Warhawk, the original ones of these didn't even have this cutout. It was just a solid grid pattern over here. The second one had the cutout, but you can see the cutout's not attached to anything. It's there's a plastic tray with a little sliding cover inside of there, and that's what protects the figure from the outside, and the cardboard is left to kind of warp and bend up around here from around the cutout. Now with IRONHEAD, he's in a plastic tray inside, but there's no slide-on cover. The plastic here is adhered to the box, so there's no warping. It's glued down to the plastic in the background, which makes it just a little bit more attractive as a display piece. The cardboard of the box that's made out of feels sturdier and feels of a better quality. And there's even a nice kind of textured feel to the front of the packaging that's just really neat. So yeah, when they say, hey, we're amping stuff up, we're going to increase the quality of our future runs, you get the box in hand and you notice it. And then you open the box. And that's where things start to fall apart. Because I will say, like I said, the box is very nice. The instructions, like, here's the plastic baggie, very thin plastic baggie that Warhawk's manual and stuff came in. And the baggie that IRONHEAD's instructions come in is a sturdier plastic. It's a nicer bag, so yes, there's been an improvement there. The instruction booklet now has a nice little picture there on the front of it, showcasing the figure. And you do get, versus the original cardboard, thin cardboard tech spec, you do get a nice hard plastic a tech card, which is nice. And they even include an updated one for Warhawk. Didn't have to do that. Very nice touch. Touch there. So again, there's some improvement again here in the presentation of these figures, but the figure themselves doesn't seem significantly improved, really, to me. One, right out of the package, his rhino horn had snapped off, and you can see the box. Wherever I stuck it, it's right here. The box itself did not appear to be damaged or beat up anywhere on the outside of it, so it doesn't feel like that could have snapped from any sort of rough handling during shipment. Just somewhere in the process, his rhino horn, because he's packed with this back into the back of the package, that had just snapped off, and I had to glue it back on. Also, these pieces, red pieces down here, were just rattling loose in the box. Because despite the fact that they don't appear to need to move forward or around or anywhere for any of the transformation parts, they are attached by a ball joint. And it may just be that's how they decided to connect them, having a part plastic molded in different color. And when you snap them back on, like, I don't know how they came loose, because they are attached very sturdily back here. So I haven't heard many reports of that happening, so it may just be I got an unlucky one, but still. Broken horn and pieces rattling around in the box doesn't exactly inspire me with confidence right out of the bat. It is, the plastic, when you get to play with him, it does feel like maybe it's a little thicker, but it doesn't feel really much higher quality than anything on Warhawk. If you're okay with Warhawk, you'll be okay with this. He's not, like I said, the plastic on Warhawk, it feels a little cheap and brittle, but I've had no issues playing with it. And I want to stress that for all the talk of it's thin plastic, and it is. To date, I have had no issues playing with the figures. So I don't want. Hey, the plastic feels cheap to be it's not going to hold together. They've held together just fine, aside from this rhino horn, and ever since it's been glued back on, it's been holding on just fine. But there is just that feeling of I don't know. You're always kind of like, I don't know if I trust this much force on this joint on these things. The foot itself that comes with it is nice. It has the little LEDs in the foot but there's really no way to change the battery in there. You can unscrew it here, and it's very easily to pop this off. Although again, this did break. There's a tab that holds it on to the front of the. You can see right there. There's a tab that holds this together, so it ratchets all together when it ratchets up, and this stays like this when you ratchet it up. And I wasn't even aware that it had broken. I unscrewed these to get to the toes and thought this just lifted up, and it did just lift up. There was no indication or any resistance to indicate that there was actually a tab there that would break off. It functions fine. You screw these back in, and it functions just fine. There's no, aside from like this, it even gives it a little bit more posability because this can move now in the ratcheting point. But just something to mention. With the LEDs in here, like, it's a nice touch. I don't know how much I'm going to use the LEDs. Certainly not in combined mode. I guess they're there to represent, laser cannon mode when he's being used as a laser cannon. Although I always like to think of these as, tighten this a little bit, these do hold on by friction, so you need to tighten those screws if you do decide to try and temp the batteries, because that's what holds these, causes them to be tight or loose. I always start to think of it as like physical mortars versus like laser cannons, but, whatever. But that's a neat little additional feature. The problem is, again, LEDs, and LEDs should last for a good while on battery power. They don't use as much battery power as your standard bulb. But even if you unscrew this and slide the toe off to access it, you can't change the battery because it's kind of there's the two halves that snap together with a bit that comes forward that holds the LED up here, and then this you can see that right here, this whole end cap slides over part of this and is glued in place. So without breaking this, there's no way to get in there and change the battery. So once it's dead, it's pretty much dead. If it was just something you needed to get inside of here to fix, I'd say you could get like a small jigsaw or hobby knife and cut, just through half of this, preferably from the inside once you have the toe removed, because the toe does slide off very easily. Just halfway through there, and then you could still leave this attached to one side of this, and you'd be able to pull the sides apart, change the battery, screw it back together, and still have this firmly attached. But with that LED in there, again, the LED sits up a little further past this. So if you cut through that, you can kind of pull this apart and get a look in there. But like, I would be very wary of trying to cut through even just half of this, knowing that the wires and the LED are sitting forward of that. So even if you wanted to change the battery, you'd probably end up slicing through the wires on there. So I'm sure there are people who are more technically skilled than me that might be able to pull it off, but I wouldn't recommend trying to change the battery. So pretty much once the batteries are gone, that's it for these cannons. Although really, like I said, I don't know how much use I'm going to get out of it. Like, not being able to turn the lights on in the feet doesn't bother me that much. But it's something people have been asking about how to do it. There you go. We'll get to more of the foot later. You can, in Rhino mode, you can flip his tail in and flip this down. There's a couple slots here that peg onto some tabs on the back of Rhino mode. And you can have him attach this as a weapon in animal mode. Although only one half is plugging in here. Let's see. I just don't have it lined up right. There we go. There we go. So you can have him carry it around like that. And that's pretty cool. So yeah. And we'll set that off to the side. Now, transformation, you want to take these, they're on the ball joint here, and kind of just rotate them in and flip them up into the body. There's a little groove there. Just like that. Now, there's some little pegs here that, again, you almost have to take one leg and pop it out. There's some little tabs up here that snap in up under here. You can see the tab there on the leg. This tab snaps into a clip up here. And that you could probably file down. The tabs are just a little bit too big, so you have to kind of squeeze them in, and then trying to get them out is a bit of a pain. Once you get one side out, the other side comes out pretty easily. But you can see there's some really fat tabs in there that I think if you shaved the little bump there down just a little bit, they'd snap in just fine and be a little bit easier to remove for robot mode. And flip the feet down. And the feet are actually nice and tight there, so you don't have to, if you want to pose him like halfway like that, he could totally support himself like that. If you pose him, yeah, see, they're not loose and floppy. They are really nice and sturdy there. And then flip the Rhino head back, which exposes his robot head, and then you bring the I'm going to unpeg these pieces right here, slide them forward, and lift this up right here because there's a little tab here, and slide the whole arm down. There you go, just like that. Get over here, arm down, move the rhino arm back around there, flip this up, and then there's a little panel here that slides to cover that tab and reveal the fist on either side of the arm, which is kind of neat. And there he is in robot mode. And it's Headstrong, and he's cool. He does come with a sword. Like that. And here he is with Warhawk. Got the sword in front of his face. And yeah, they look good together. They clearly match, which is, I guess, good. The yellow is a little different, but you know, there's what else you can. Like this is paint versus plastic, and it's kind of hard to match that exactly. But of the same color palette and kind of nice. Although I guess this plastic down here on his feet is a little bit more orange than that. But again, like I don't need that to match exactly. Like they're of the same, you know, red, yellow, black, and orange color scheme. That if the shades are a little different, like I think that kind of works more in their favor of showing them as individual bots, and gives them a little slightly different color scheme across the robot mode. Especially since a lot of those parts you're not really going to notice. Like the yellow on Dive Bomb isn't as noticeable as like his whole chest is going to be in Predaking mode. So like the 2 feet really aren't going to stick out that much, and the hands flip in. So there's that. And decently posable. He's got ball joint hips. It looks like he's supposed to have thigh swivels. There's a little cover there to keep this lower leg from being hollow, and you can see it kind of bends out when you twist it. I don't know if you can see that, but see if I can get this down here. But there's a plastic cover that is flat here, and then when you twist the leg, maybe do it like this will show you, it pops out a little bit at an angle, which is a little there it's really, the more you twist it, the more it's, see, and that just popped it right off. See, there's some mold flash there on this wheel that just popped that right off. It doesn't look like it was glued in, it does look like it just pegged right in, so I guess that's less of an issue, but it is, but yeah, so you can see twisting that just pops that right off. So don't twist the legs too far. But yeah, and there he is. That's hinge knees, thigh swivel. You can, like I said, if you want to have him posed with his foot posed forward, they are very nice stiff joints on the feet, so you're not going to have that issue. Ball joint shoulders. There's a hinge at the elbow. There's a ball joint, a lower ball joint here. So if you free that up, you can have him have a ball joint at the elbow. And yeah, and then his head does twist separately, independently of the rhino head piece there. And then for limb mode, you just bring the arm back up, slide this panel forward. You basically transform it back into rhino mode here. Bring it back and tab it in. There's a little, it just popped off here. Oh, it's the thigh piece again. Looks like it's supposed to be glued on and it just popped off. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of glue residue. Tiny little bit of glue residue around the peg, so. But oh well, we'll glue that back in later. So yeah, bring that around. And again, there's the peg on the arm pegs into a slot on the side of the body there. So bring it back at the elbow joint, or the shoulder joint, sorry, and peg it in. Then you actually rotate. The instructions say to rotate these up because it shows the elbow joint being down here, but this is correct. The elbow joint's up here in all the pictures, and you just rotate the leg down like this. I guess you could fold it in even too if you wanted. The way that joint works, you can hide that back there if you want. The head up, lift the whole thing up, rotate the panel around the head here, so it comes forward, and then lift the whole thing up so it's sitting forward there. You want to snap the legs together, leave these just sitting right back in here, and again compress it so that that tab there in the middle snaps up into the clip here in the waist. And it does take some force, again, because of those fat tabs. But just, steady, consistent pressure. Or if you get one in first, I guess that helps a little bit too, there as well. Keep that together, flip the feet up, just like that. Now you got to get, they even give you kind of a groove in this tab because it's really hard to get out. The ratchet here is really difficult. And you know, if you can see, there's almost like a flat spot for a screwdriver in this, because you really got to use an insane amount of force to get this all the way up. Nice ratchet, you know, it's definitely going to be able to support the combined mode, but man, it really hurts your thumbs getting that started from under here. Which again, you can see there's like a notch in the top of it, almost as if they know you're going to need to get like a screw or a key or something to start prying it up from under here to get it moving. Pull this back. And then he just plugs into the 2 pegs on the foot. There is, and there's the foot mode. Again, you can turn the lasers on in the foot if you choose to. I don't know why you'd want to, but it's there. He does on a panel that rotates out. It's kind of loose, like a little bit here. There's some friction to hold it at a slight angle. You start going more than that, and it's a really just kind of a loose hinge. I don't imagine why you'd want to have him pose so wide that he's standing like this. And if you did, and you had his other leg in a solid pose, that's probably going to support it just fine. You know, he's not going, as long as it doesn't slide out, he's going to be fine. But it does seem a little loose this way, especially when you've got such a strong ratchet up here for the toes. And again, you can, if you want to kind of have him in a toe pose, but are afraid he might fall backwards, you can fold the heel down to get some support that way. So, you know, depending on how you're posing him in combined mode, there's some options there to keep him sturdy. So yeah, there's War Rhino, Ironhead as his new name is, and like I said, they're not bad figures. But they feel a little off. And you saw there's a few just minor niggling things. Like I don't know if for what you pay for these, I would expect a lot of that to be fixed. But I mean, like I said, the aesthetics of the combined mode of Predaking, he makes him a very lithe, you know, slim hunter, you know, athletic type of robot. That doesn't look too bad. So I guess it's really going to come down to how well their razor claw holds everything together. I think at the price it's at, like I said, if these were $50 a pop, I would have far fewer reservations about these guys. But I just don't know. I can't wholeheartedly say go spend the money on these at the price they're asking. They're small. The plastic feels off. Like I said, I've had no issues with playing with them. I like it, but there's just something that makes you hold them very gently when you're playing with them. The combined mode aesthetic of Predaking I think looks pretty cool. From what we've seen, the LEDs are unnecessary, but a nice little add-on. Just don't get too attached to them because, like I said, it's going to be very difficult, if possible, to swap the batteries out when they do eventually die on you. So yeah, like I said, if you find them on clearance, you have some store credit, pick them up. If you know somebody who has one, check it out before you. It's not one I can say go spend the money on without knowing what you're getting. If you have a chance to play with one or check one out in person, I highly recommend doing so before you drop any money on these guys. And you might find they're worth it. Some people are liking them. I'm not against them. I think they're fun. They look good together. I've had them on display on my computer desk for a couple of days now. I mean, just their aesthetic is not bad, but quality-wise, I have some concerns, and it's just if they continue to improve throughout the line, great. Like I said, their packaging has definitely taken a step up. The packaging and presentation of the figure has definitely improved. I don't know that Ironhead really is a giant improvement quality-wise over Dive Bomb. Although, again, like I said, Dive Bomb is not as bad as I've heard some horror stories on the boards to be. While he isn't perfect, he's not garbage. So, anyway, I'm ranty now, so just kind of rambling on. But yeah, like I said, try before you buy on this one.